Landmark moment for East Africa. Flights have resumed between Ethiopia and Eritrea after a peace deal ended a 20-year conflict. The route reunites friends and families from both sides of the border. Local media reported the first flight was sold out within hours of going on sale. The restoration of flights will strengthen ties between the former enemies. Ethiopia is enjoying an economic revival at breakneck speed. It is now sub-Saharan Africa's fastest-growing economy. We are talking growth in excess of 8% this year, according to the IMF. The boom is being fueled by large-scale infrastructure projects, like a new railway network and the Grand Renaissance Dam. Ethiopia is also opening state-run industries to local and international investors. That includes Ethiopian Airlines and state-run telecom companies. Driving this liberalization is the new Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who's only been in power for a couple of months. He lifted the state of emergency and ended the deadly conflict with Eritrea. The question is, can he keep the momentum beyond the honeymoon period? Awalalo joins me. He's a lecturer at the Kiel University School of Law. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us. And that is the question I'm going to start with. Can this honeymoon continue?
I think every indication is that there is a very huge commitment, both on the part of the Ethiopian government and the Eritrean government, that this will continue and this will most likely last longer. And I think the Eritrean president was recently in Ethiopia. There was a concert that was held in his honor. The expression of solidarity and the love that was displayed on that stage, I think, very much sums up the kind of desire and interest to continue in a different direction from the position that the two governments have taken in the past. So it's very likely that it would continue. And I think today's flight, which had a very strong symbolic and political significance, has started or kicked off that new relationship.
We talk about this economic growth that we've seen over the past year. How much has that contributed to the sense of unity now between these two former enemies and the overall atmosphere of potential growth going forward for the country?
I don't think the economic progress Ethiopia has made over the course of the last 10, 15 years has in any way contributed to the change in terms of the relationship between Ethiopia and Eritrea. And I think what has changed the political landscape in the region is the change that have taken place within the Ethiopian state itself. Ethiopia was a country that was dominated by a single party for the last 27 years. But recently, there was a political movement that has been happening within the country, young people protesting, calling for change. It was that protest that brought about a radical transformation in terms of the configuration of power within the Ethiopian state that brought the current prime minister into power. It is this prime minister that reached out to Eritrea, essentially arguing that relations between Ethiopia and Eritrea has to change in order for both Ethiopia, Eritrea, and the broader Horn of Africa region to go forward.
So a lot of the credit is due to the change in leadership. What, if any, headwinds do you see in the future?
I think the normalization of relations between Ethiopia and Eritrea is significant, not just for the two countries, but also for the region, not just in terms of economic development for the two countries and the region, but also politically and socially. The fact that the region has not really been integrated economically is mainly due to the instability in the region, and that instability to a large part is due to the hostile relationship between Ethiopia and Eritrea. So I think this new dynamic relationship between the two countries does open up opportunities for the two countries and also for the region more broadly to be integrated economically. And the Ethiopian Prime Minister has been emphasizing how important it is for the region to integrate economically.
Any cautionary signs, though? Anything that would ring alarm as far as you're concerned, and what could sort of prevent continued harmony?
As I was saying, I think this is mainly the outcome or the result of the changes that have taken place within the Ethiopian state. And this change it has not been consolidated. It has not taken root yet. And Ethiopia as a country has some serious structural problems. So if Ethiopia is able to overcome this structural instability that are at the core of the political process, then I think there is a very good chance that the relations between the two countries and broadly within the region would go forward and would become stronger and stronger. But if Ethiopia falters in some ways on its way, and I think this can most likely go back because there are elements within the government that are, for example, not particularly happy about this recent rapprochement between Ethiopia and Eritrea. And these are elements that has been very dominant in Ethiopian politics in the past, control the security and the military establishment. So there is some risk there. But I think by and large, the Ethiopian public seems to be behind the current prime minister. If the movement that is being that's ongoing at the moment is supported by regional and international actors, and I think there is a very good chance for these two countries to move forward.
Reason for optimism, at least for now. Dr. Alla, thank you so much for joining us.